It's time to get your checking account to zero with free checking from PenFed. That's zero ATM fees, zero balance requirements, and zero time spent waiting for your paycheck to direct deposit because you can receive it up to 2 days early. Open your account with just $25 and see how big zero can be. Apply online today at PenFed.org/free checking. Early direct deposit eligibility may vary between pay periods and timing of payers' funding. To receive any advertised product, you must become a member of PenFed, insured by NCUA.
PenFed's got great rates for everyone.
All right, welcome back to the podcast. It's Tuesday, the day that the podcast usually comes out, but we had to wait a little bit so that we could record a recap of last week's hunt for caribou. We have wife Abby. We have Ryan John here.
Hello.
Hello.
Coming to you from the airport parking lot in Ketchikan once again.
In the studio car.
Studio car.
Yep.
Once again. So, I'm a little fatigued still.
You are?
From the, I feel pretty good, but I don't know. It just seems like there was a lot of walking around, a lot of hiking, a lot of just not sleeping super, super well. And I think it started with that first day that the snow was bad and we didn't really get to do much. So I guess let's start there. We get to our hunting spot, and first day that we can hunt, we can't hunt because of snow. What was going through your mind day one?
Hurry up and wait. Yeah, just a lot of snow that first night. It started raining at 7 o'clock. Then we just hunkered down after a little bit of glassing, and I think we found some water. Wait, did we find water right there?
Yeah, we found.
Yeah.
Okay.
We walked down to the creek.
That's right. And then it started raining when we were heading back up.
Mhm.
And then we crawled into our tents, and then we just waited. And then we didn't come out really until, we came out a couple times, just to hope for a glimpse. But, yeah, there was fog, there was snow, there was rain. And, yeah, it was just a short amount of time. It could have been a couple days, but it was just a day. So.
Yeah. As bad as the weather is in Southeast, I've only really done segments, like a morning session of in the tent waiting for the fog to clear, because you kind of time the weather, and so by noon or so it should start to clear up, and maybe you can glass a little bit before that. So I've gone a couple hours in the morning, a couple hours in the evening, but I've never gone like 24 hours. Yeah. It was actually more than that, because it was Sunday night all the way through Monday, and we just get out for maybe a couple seconds, and it would either still be snowing, or if it stopped snowing, we'd see for maybe 100, 200 yards, but it wasn't worth it to get outside, get cold, get wet, and then go back inside where everything is dry.
Yeah.
And then get all that stuff wet, and then we have the whole rest of the hunt where you're just kind of behind the 8 ball with wetness.
Yeah, that definitely wouldn't make any sense. That was my second time, I believe. I was on Edlin, and storm came in, and, yeah, we just hung out for a day, and, yeah, it's one of those things. You just wait it out, and can be very boring. Naps, food, get up and walk around for a little bit, but yeah, not hanging out there too much. So
it's amazing how those days take a lot out of you, because you'd think that because you're totally inactive that you would have so much juice the next day, but it's like that. You don't get any adrenaline. Don't get any ampedness. You're just there, and you have to shut it down. Otherwise, you're not going to sleep. You can't relax, and so it really takes kind of a mental toll to just be there and try to persevere through snacking, eating, watching movies.
Yeah.
Get through it.
Yeah, felt kind of like a slug that day. It's like, okay, yeah, this is boring, but hopefully it's just this one day. And we had our in reaches so we could check the weather, and we knew that it was going to break the next day. So, yeah, it's just you just wait it out. So
yeah.
I'm just glad it was one day and not 2 or 3 days. That would have been, oof, that would have cut into the trip big time. So
just that next morning, I remember unzipping the tent and just seeing sun. And it was super cold still, and it had kind of frozen a little bit of a crust on all the snow, and we probably, between 4 to 6 inches of snow, so there was definitely some accumulation, but it was so nice and refreshing to see the blue sky, and it was so nice again because we made it up there about 3 miles and then made camp, like everything was dry. Mm-hmm. So we were starting from scratch, we were starting dry, we were starting ready to go, which was awesome, and packed up camp and went to that first little glassing spot as we were wrapping around going up this drainage, and we didn't see a whole lot. We saw a few kind of scattered. So now that we're hunting, now that we're officially day one, let's make something happen. How did that feel from that first glassing stop when we weren't really seeing much?
I mean, we saw those bulls, but we just didn't see the wow bulls.
Mm-hmm.
We saw what looked like small bulls, and then looks like maybe some cows down in there mingling. They were down low when we first saw them, and then spirits were high just because the sun was out. Well,
Yeah.
just
so
because
nice.
we could actually see. So
Yeah.
I mean, I was feeling pretty good that morning, and we had just started and slowly working our way back in there, not just glass in and trying to stay warm, and then I felt pretty good about it.
Yeah, it was nice as we wrapped around the front side of that mountain. We got into more sun, which was nice. We were kind of in the shadows at first. It was pretty stinking cold. So when we first stopped, like, you're there and you're glassing. There's a little bit of wind and you're kind of getting chilly. So it was nice to move a little bit. And we'd kind of had that plan of letting the glass do the walking for us. But then, like, you don't want to stay there all day if nothing's going to happen. And we knew that these were kind of like mountain-type caribou or getting up a little bit out of the valley. So kind of went around on the inside of that. And when we saw that group that was on top of that mountain, what were you feeling then?
Excited. Yeah, I think there was one pretty good looking bull in there, and he had just some pretty good tops, and couldn't see his bottoms at that point, but just based off his tops, I was like, okay, yeah, that's definitely a bull that I would really like to shoot. And that's when kind of came up with a little game plan, and then we just worked our way back in there. But I was feeling really optimistic at that point. I didn't expect to see them on the very tippy top of the mountain. I mean, if there was 4 to 6 inches of snow down where we were at, then I mean 8 to 10 where they were at, I mean, there was quite a bit.
Yeah.
So, but it was nice to see. It was nice to see that big one. But I'm glad how it worked out, I guess. So.
Yeah, it was. Whenever I see something up above, I get a little bit nervous because it's always a hard stalk when they have the high ground and you don't, and so you're not really sure where you're going to poke out. So if you're looking straight across at this, like we were, we had to drop down like 500 feet, and then we had to go up 1,200 to get to where they were at. So in that time, you think you kind of aim for this rock, and if we get to that rock, we should be able to look across, and we might even be able to have a shot. But maybe, there's texture in between, or maybe they feed toward it, maybe they feed over, and once you drop down out of sight, it can be hard to pick them up again. And one of the things that we kind of experienced with caribou before is that they can move quite a bit. Down here with the black-tailed deer, sometimes, like, you're in pretty good shape if you make this move. You duck behind something, you go behind the ridge, and that thing's still going to be bedded, or, they're still going to be there. But with these caribou moving, I was worried they would have moved out of the country, and they had moved, just not as far as we thought.
Yeah.
At first.
Yeah, they didn't move near as far as I thought they were going to. They definitely moved a little bit, but nothing like some of those other caribou. I mean, some of those other ones we saw, they would just start running for nothing. What was behind them? More caribou, and then they would just turn around and spar a little bit, and then go back to feeding, and then they would just run again, and then just start walking. It's like, what is going on through your brain right now? They're just doing what caribou do, I guess. So
it made a lot of sense when the caribou were running up on the slope because it was mosquitoes.
Yeah.
You thought, okay, it's going to slowly drive them crazy. You've got bot flies or whatever, and so all of a sudden they start to move their heads and they start to get irritated, and then they just run to get away from the mosquitoes. But, I mean, it was snowy. None of that stuff was going on, so it was kind of interesting. And then also interesting, granted it was mid-September, but I still expected all, if not most, of the caribou to be hard-horned, but there were still quite a few that were still in velvet.
Yeah, I think, weren't those cows that were still in velvet?
Yeah, I think it was mostly the cows. I don't know.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Maybe a small bull or two that were in the process of shedding, but yeah, most of the cows were in velvet. What were you thinking, Abby, as we were kind of following them around and decided to go down, set up camp, and then go up after those?
Well, I guess at the time, I mean, I thought we were taking our sweet time getting over there, and now with you guys being like, oh, they didn't move as much as we thought, I was like, oh, we thought they were going to be further away?
I don't know. I wasn't sure what we did take our sweet time. We didn't, because we didn't want to rush it. It was that back and forth. We didn't want to just charge up the mountain, so we wanted to exercise calm, and that was one of the big things I knew you talked about, Ryan, is I don't want to get so excited about something, I end up shooting something small. I want to be able to discern. I want to take some time to look through things. This is a good area with some good bulls. I don't want to be just frantically shooting the first bull I see.
Yeah.
But at the same time, having a sense of urgency because they are up there, but knowing they're going to move. So as we dropped to 500 feet, we crossed this creek that had a whole bunch of willows, and then we get up high enough, we scoot snow out, we set up the tent. So it is taking quite a bit of time. So I knew they were moving, and part of me thought that they would have moved further, but really when we like gained all that elevation and dropped down, like they weren't really all that far away.
Yeah, and at the time when we were setting up our tents and stuff like that and kicking snow out of the way, we had looked up the mountain and we saw a different group, which we didn't know. We thought that maybe this was the other group, but those guys were running.
They were moving.
Yeah, they were moving pretty good, but there was a lot more of them, it seemed, and so we weren't sure. It was like, well, did they go that way? Should we still climb up there? So then at that point, we just made the decision, okay, let's just keep going up there. Let's see what happens, and then after camp was set up, then we just kind of slowly charged our way up there. So
it's funny, those pictures in the little video clips, because we're heading up this mountain. There's snow all around, but you're in a T-shirt.
Yeah.
We had the sun beating down on us, and so you had the reflection. So it was pretty nice and warm, and there wasn't a whole lot of wind. But once we got to the top, and you're in that, like you said, 8 to 10 inches of snow, except for where it's whipping across the ridge, and so it's only a couple inches. But yeah, as soon as we stopped, it got cold almost instantly.
It did. It got very cold.
But we saw those, got to a false summit, looked across, saw the ones that we saw from camp, and then decided to go all the way to the top. And then that's when we looked down and we saw them. Did you think it was on, over, done deal? What were you thinking there?
I thought I was going to get a shot off there for a little bit. I got pretty excited. We set up the scope and tripod, and we ranged them, and they were 400 and some odd yards, 440 yards, which that's a pretty long shot, especially when there's that many caribou around. And I was like, I didn't want to take that shot on the first shot. I don't mind taking a follow-up shot at that shot, because I feel like I'm a pretty good shooter. So, but I just didn't want to start off taking a 450-yard shot or whatever right off the bat. So, we watched them, and then you guys said, go ahead and try to make your move. And yeah, it was set up just for a bad situation for us. So, yeah, the wind was swirling up there, and the sun was behind us, and we were on the ridge, and I tried sneaking over to pretend to be a rock, and they started getting twitchy, and it just didn't pan out. Mm-hmm. So
I'm really glad two things. First was that it was clear that bull was worth shooting. Mm-hmm. And not that, trophy hunt or whatever, but again, it's day one of when we can hunt, so we have some time. Why not make it a big-bodied, big-racked, absolutely. So it was nice that was definitive, one worth going after. It wasn't marginal. And that the distance was also a definitive no. I think if it's 405, 410, 415, then it's easier to kind of validate, well, it's not that much more, I'll just tie that into the ballistics, and then, it should be. But because it was definitive, yes, shooter, but no shot, it was nice. So you didn't have to worry about, well, it's right on the edge of the range. Should I take this? I don't want to, but I will. Or should we wait for a different caribou? It's kind of marginal. It was nice that those were definitive decisions that were kind of made for us. And then it set up a failed stalk. But that did concern me. I liked the bull. I liked that the distance was clear. You weren't just sending them. You were disciplined in that. But then it made me think, if these bulls are all going to be pretty high on these peaks, that might be the expectation, that everything is going to be 400, 450. What if we never really get in range? Because these open areas, you can't really stalk. If they're down or down the ridge or on the other side, how are we supposed to drop down without being seen, without going down the other side, wrap all the way around, and maybe they've fed? So I was a little bit concerned going forward that we wouldn't really have an opportunity that was going to be nice and within range.
Yeah, I didn't know what to expect after that. I didn't know whether to be upset because they took off into a different country, or just to be happy that we got to see him, and we were pretty close. But yeah, I definitely then I was just kind of talking to myself on the way up. I was like, yeah, no, I can't be upset about that. That was pretty cool. There was a cool bull. There was a couple caribou. I mean, this is the first day type of thing. So yeah, spirits didn't get down for me after that. But yeah, it was definitely. I was a little tired getting back up that hill because we didn't eat lunch because we were in a hurry to get back up there. So yeah, I was a little fatigued at that point.
Yeah.
Just because I don't know how many feet, maybe 400 feet is what I crawled down.
Yeah.
Well, kind of slid down the backside of that mountain, and at the time I thought so they had they weren't running at this point. So, and I was just trying to pretend to be a rock. I was trying to just pretend like I wasn't a predator or whatever that may be. I was just holding still, and then they had dropped over this little lip out of sight. So then I figured, okay, they can't see me, I can't see them. They weren't running when they went out of sight, so I figured I'd just crawl down there to the lip and maybe I'd get a 200-300 yard shot off one of these bulls. And yeah, no, I got down there and they were little specks that were just running as fast as they could just up the drainage. And I was like, well, there goes that opportunity. Let's move on to the next.
Yeah. We were watching through the spotting scope, and we saw where you were going off to the right, and then I thought, okay, was he going to try to work down to that rock? But how is he going to do that? He's totally exposed. And against the white snow, you're just going to look like something.
Yeah.
And then the wind was kind of at all of our backs. So I thought, well, how much tolerance do they have? Are they curious whatsoever? And after a little bit, you could kind of see that they were looking around a little bit. Most of the bulls were feeding. But then at some point, I don't know if the wind picked up and really caught their noses or if they saw the movement or what, but the cow and calves kind of congealed a little bit, and they started walking, and then it seemed like the bulls were kind of standing there as a let them get out of the way, and then we're covering your exit. And so they were standing there, and then they just kind of slowly went over the edge, like you said, and then I saw you just running down the snow. I was like, that looks kind of fun, but also I don't think we're going to catch them. And then once they disappeared, they came back up, and I don't think you could see them. And we thought, oh man, they're pretty gone. And so like put the binos up on you, and then you looked up at me, and I'm just waving it off like, dude, they're gone. They are way, way gone. And yeah, I saw them at a dead sprint.
Oh yeah,
mile away at that point. It
gone.
was crazy.
Yeah. When so after that, I put my binos up, and I can see you guys waving, and then I can see you guys put your binos up. And at the time, I actually held my right hand down and with my thumb down, like, oh yeah, no, they're gone, because I wasn't sure if you guys what you guys had saw. So I was like, okay, time to do the walk of shame back up. So yeah, it was good. It's humbling. When you talk about it out loud, the wind was at our back. We were on the ridge, fully exposed. Sun was at our back, totally silhouetted. That's rookie hour. Totally.
Yeah, there have been a couple times where, and this happened with us when we were up on that alpine bear hunt, where the wind was the sun was perfectly at our backs, and that wolf came all the way in because the sun it wasn't like a silhouette. It was so bright that it couldn't figure out what we were. So that wolf came into about 15, 20 yards. And I've thought about that a lot. If the sun is just perfect, then like if I look at the sun, I can't tell what shapes or what's going on. Obviously animals can have better eyesight, but from 450 yards, if they're looking up at the mountain and they're looking right directly into the sun, like that might end up working to your advantage. I think if it's off to the side a little bit, then you're silhouetted pretty good, or it can be wrong. You stand out. But yeah, I think when we crested and saw them, it seemed like, okay, get a good rest, get the shot, but those extra 50, 40 yards just kind of made the decision. But we'd already committed to coming over. They could already kind of see, and then it was kind of messed up. But yeah, I think we may have been able to do it better, but I don't know. Just whatever happened. So then we loop around, have a little bit of a snack before dinner, go back to the tents, and I don't know. Were we like ready to call it, or what was we were gonna glass a little bit, I guess, and then you saw one.
Yeah, on the way down, probably about 10 minutes before. Well, on the way down to the tent, we got to the tents, but we were talking on the way down how kind of tired and fatigued we were, and camp is set up, so it's like, oh, we can just crawl into the fart sack right now and then we can just go to bed, but then we got down there and we're laying all of our stuff out there, and then we took off. I'm pretty sure my boots were off, or at least the gaiters were off.
Yeah.
And then just look up and saw. I looked up with my naked eye, and I just saw this little dot up in the mountain. I'm like, okay, well, put the binos up. I'm like, ooh, that's a bull. That's a pretty big bull just from the binos there. And then I tell you guys, I'm like, oh, it looks like there's a pretty decent bull up there. So put the spotter on it. And I guess I took a little video of that, so that was kind of cool. And then, from that point, when I saw him in the spotter, I was like, okay, yeah, that's a shooter. And he had turned at one point, and it looks like, if like I had stuck my arms up and turned, it just looked like someone's arms were up, as that's how wide and tall he was to me. So it's like, okay, yeah, that one's pretty good.
After years of fine print contracts and getting ripped off by big wireless providers, if we've learned anything, it's that there's always a catch. So when I first heard that Mint Mobile offers premium wireless starting at just $15 a month, I thought, what's the catch? But after talking to them and using their service, it all made sense. There isn't one. Mint Mobile's secret sauce is that they're the first company to sell wireless service online only. They cut out the cost of retail stores and pass those sweet savings directly to you. For anyone who hates their phone bill, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. I was hesitant about having to get a new phone and a new phone number, but with Mint, you can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone and your same phone number along with all of your existing contacts. Mint Mobile gives you the best rate whether you're buying for one or for a family, and at Mint, families start at 2 lines. All plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and to get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/waypoint. That is mintmobile.com/waypoint. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/waypoint.
Yeah, pretty tired. And we'd planned on going up. This is like a little spur off the main drainage, and we'd actually kind of scouted this spot before. We thought this might be a really good spot where kind of a nook drainage off the main one where they could be safe and tucked back up in there. Maybe the snow had moved them there. Maybe predators had pushed them up, or just a great out-of-sight spot where it's not super exposed. And so that was kind of we were kind of planning for the next day. Hey, we're just going to do that. Let's let stuff calm down. Let's let things get back to normal. Get the scent off the top and get the new stuff, fresh stuff moving around, because people talk about caribou just constantly moving. And so if we'd put some scent up there, we'd spook some, whatever, the next day there should be new coming in, replenishing. So, I was kind of prepared for the next day. I wanted to glass some more, but I wanted some chicken pasta and some warm food and some eats. But yeah, when we started after that one, I felt like kind of had heavy legs a little bit, but and then the entire time I was thinking, okay, he's halfway up the mountain, so it was another like 800,000 foot climb, and he kind of disappeared into this depression on the face. So I thought, okay, we're gonna go up and try to side hill it, or we're gonna stay low. Like, what's gonna be our call? But there's this nice kind of game trail right along the river. So as we're following that, I'm looking up the entire time. So I'm like stumbling and slipping around on the willows and the snow trying to keep up with you. But what was going through your head as we were making that stalk?
Just stay low and stay out of sight. So we hopped on that little trail after we crossed the creek once again, and then I just figured, if we stay low and just keep glassing up, I figured he would just stay up there feeding. So, my idea was that we would just work our way down until we can get him in sight, and then I would just use the brush and the terrain to my advantage, and then I would just work up through that and then get within range and pull the trigger. That wasn't the case, so it actually worked out in our favor. And I think on the way over, Abby, she had said, well, he's probably with another bull. And I said, oh, okay, well. And then something to that effect anyway. And then they started working down, and we didn't know that until we had busted out of a patch of willows. And then they didn't see us, but for whatever reason, again, they were trotting, not running like the other ones, but they were trotting. So it's like, oh man, we need to move pretty quick. So then we moved through again another little field, and then through another patch of willows, and then I'm sneaking over because I can see this little bench, and I'm thinking, okay, they're just on this side of the creek, and they're just right up ahead of us, and still on the same side of the creek as us. And on my way over, you guys are behind me, and I hear, I think, Jeff, you were giving me the psst, 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 there's a bull, there's a bull, there. Yeah. So I was just, uh-oh. So then I stopped, got low, and I came back to you, and I was like, okay, what's going on here? And then that's when I could see that they were just down in the creek there. Mm-hmm. And I had ranged them right there, and I can't remember what it was, but I remember I ranged them. It was somewhere right around 100 yards. And that's when I think they had caught movement from maybe me, and that's when they, kind of spooked, went up the creek a little bit, and then at some point they crossed, and by that time I had got into shooting position, I think on the rock right there. Or, no, I think I was in the snow. Mm-hmm. And, so I just ranged again. I think it was right around 150. I can't really remember. It was a bit of a blur, but so then I just once the bull that I wanted was and before this, Abby had said this totally made me second guess myself, and I'm like, okay, am I getting tunnel vision here? Because Abby says she said, just make sure he's big enough. And I was like, wait, is that not a good bull? And I was just, then all these things came in my head. I'm like, what's going on?
I didn't realize that you got, I don't know where I was, but I didn't know you got the spotter out and then looked at him, and like, I just saw him from far away, and then I saw them run across us, and you were like ready to fire shots, and I was like, I hope this is a good one.
Yeah. It was crazy that, because I kept looking up, and then I thought they were gone. I thought they'd maybe fed up the saddle up and over to the other drainage. But then when they came trotting down right in front of us, I thought, man, they cut all the distance for us. They came down all that entire way, came in front, and we saw. And then after that, that's when we dropped the packs, and Abby stayed with the packs, and I kind of went forward slowly with you and then saw them. And then I stayed to kind of film because I wanted to keep the movement down, and they crossed, and then you were perfect, so I just held the camera on them, and I was waiting for a shot.
Yeah, I didn't even realize you were recording. It was just like went into kill mode after I realized, that's a bull I want to kill. And I was like, well, he's wider than his body. He's got nice big tops. And then I just felt like, I was like, okay, that's the one. And so, yeah, they get spooked across the creek. But then, of course, they did the next move, which was to stop and look back, and I was like, oh yeah,
perfect.
Nope, that's
broadside,
done.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Broadside, and I was set up, just practicing some patience there, and pulled the first trigger, or pulled the trigger, and felt pretty good on the shot. And then he had run up a couple more yards, and then I ranged him again at 203 yards, and then by that time he had done the little weeble wobble, so I a little bit of a dance. He's getting a little tired, so that other bull cleared again, and that's when I pulled the trigger again. I was like, just a little insurance round. I mean, he was already dead, but just figured a little quicker, just do another one, and
He reacted a little bit to the first one, but I didn't see like a huge reaction. I didn't see much, and so I thought maybe you missed. I thought there's no way that he can miss. And then
there's a way.
Then
buck fever is a way.
Then I saw the wobble. And I thought, oh, it's over. It is over. And then you and I were separated by 20, 25 yards. We're at the same elevation, but separated a little bit, so your angle was different than mine. And that other one was close, but didn't seem like he was ever in the way, which I thought, man, just stay out of the way, stay out of the way. So that was perfect. There was no mistaking which one, which was good. Because the other one was it was a nice bull, but just a lot more narrow. So definitively more narrow and smaller than the other one, and he never really got in the way. Mm-hmm. So that second shot, and then it was over. And man, I looked over, and you were just kind of on your knees. Just it was like relief and excitement. Put your hands above your head, and I was, oh yeah, man, this is great.
Oh yeah, that was so cool, so cool. And then So from my point of view, from while the shots were going on, that little bull was dancing around, and I don't know why, but I always second guess myself. And when that bull was dancing around, I was like, just don't get in the way. Just don't accidentally shoot two bulls. I mean, that would just be the worst thing that could possibly happen. I mean, other than somebody getting hurt. But I was just like, just worst case scenario pops into my head, like right between the shots. I'm like, okay, no, that bull is out of the way. don't shoot unless you're 100% confident. And yeah, it went great. He maybe ran 20 yards after that first shot, and then did the dance, and then I put another one in him, and then a couple 20, 30 seconds after that, he was laying on the ground. So it was awesome.
Yeah. So go over there, gut it, and then left it for the evening, or took the fronts off, and then left it for the evening, kind of kept it in the willows, so it was kind of out of sight, but also in a spot where if there was a grizzly bear, we'd be able to see the grizzly, so we didn't hide it in an area that was, we weren't going through grizzlies in order to, or going through willows to see it. So left it for the evening, came back in the morning, and it was nice and cold, and went to work in the sun, but it was still cold. My feet were just...
Oh, man, that wind was terrible.
The wind was horrible.
The wind would come in, and then it would stop for a little bit, and then it would get too hot, and then I'd pull off a layer, and then the wind would come back and have to stop and put the layer back on. But, yeah.
The nice thing about a fresh kill is that you get the warm meat, so it warms up your hands, but it's so much easier to cut when it's colder.
Oh, yeah.
So that was, I don't know, would it take us an hour and a half, 2 hours?
Three people, we made short work of that bull.
Yeah.
We did a dang fine job.
It was just a lot of bull. It was
so
crazy.
much. So much. Around 190 pounds of meat off of that thing. I mean, that's the biggest animal I've ever killed so far. I mean, that was a lot of meat.
The hindquarters, there's just so much of it. And the ribs were crazy. Never done a moose, never. You said this was similar to the size of your elk, right?
It was bigger.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they say in this area, that they're bigger. And obviously, like a big animal, we saw that with our small caribou last year, that they had the frame, like they could really, really carry some weight.
Yeah.
And this one had the frame and was carrying a lot of weight. And then we decided that outside of your really, really heavy pack, and there's always people who talk about 110-pound packs or 260-pound packs.
Oh, yeah.
Everything on their back to go. So we made the call. We were going to shuttle it. So one heavy pack was going to be heavy. The other pack was going to be camp. There wasn't even any sort of discussion about trying to get it all out at once, which was kind of nice because we had time to get it out.
I think we all knew at that point that wasn't going to happen. I mean, there was no way. So
not going to happen.
Not with camp and that big of an animal on our back. I mean, we would have been moving so slow, so miserable.
So actually, before we got up to the animal to take care of it, we crossed the river. We broke camp, crossed the river, so that way creek crossings were pretty much over, except for the one with the meat. But we got camp on the same side, or got camp on the side of that we were going to take when we were heading out. Went up there, took care of it, and then you took a bag, two bags of meat, plus the antlers, back to camp, and that was
heavy.
heavy.
That was heavy. So yeah, so we had 5 bags of meat, and we had 3 of those Kuyu large bone out bags, which were plumb full. One of them was maybe halfway full, and then we had the Argali bag, one of the Argali bags, and then another Kuyu bag, and both of those were pretty full. So Abby grabbed one, you grabbed 2, and Abby was going to grab another one, but I was like, and it's like, are you sure you can do 2? Well, yeah.
I remember you being like, do you want it? And I was like, well, I don't want it.
Yeah, I had asked you, and there was some hesitation. I was like, okay, it's just for roughly a mile. I can suck this up, and that's when I threw them both on my back, and then I threw the antlers on there, which you had mentioned. So that's probably the one thing you didn't Google was how to put the antlers on your pack. And I said, yeah, that's the one thing I didn't check because that was a pain in the butt.
Yeah, I hadn't scrutinized. Had kind of seen, but I'd never really thought, okay, well, how exactly is this working? I've seen people do it with elk and whatnot, but didn't how
do you practice
scrutinize?
That?
Yeah. So we got it figured out after that first mile. But we get down that mile, get back to camp, and had some food and started the shuttling,
Mm-hmm.
and it was nice because it was mostly downhill.
Mm-hmm.
We found a pretty good sweet spot between the willows down low and then being too steep where it's side hilling, but you just kind of put your head down and deal with it, and that was the thing.
Yeah, navigate through the moose trails that that were there, and then it worked out pretty good. A couple times we had lost a trail, which I mean, game trails, they just kind of zig in and out, but for the most part, I mean, we were moving pretty good. So with that first pack out was 3 miles with the meat or 4 miles.
I think it was 3, and then the second day was 4.5. So
okay,
3 miles with the meat, and then went back to pick up the camp.
Yep.
And then got to the meet, camped there that night, and then the next morning as we were leaving, taking the meet down, we saw grizzly bear tracks and
wolf tracks.
I thought, oh man, this is we're kind of down in it now. This is something else. Make a lot of noise. And you took your rifle on the way down, but get down to where we need to be, drop off the meet, head back up, and this was the steep part of it where we gained 1,000, 1,200, something like that.
I felt like
maybe more than that, because 3,000 was about the break of timber, but we were at like 3,300 or something like that. So definitely some hiking, but there was a game trail, which was nice.
Yeah,
anytime you can find a game trail, that makes it nice. So scooted back up there, and you guys were hauling, going uphill.
I just didn't want to get ran over by Abby. I was like, I got to keep moving.
No, I was like that too. It was crazy. Like, I just got into a mode, and I couldn't really deviate much from that mode. If I tried to go much faster, it was like, so the body's like, this is our mode. We can sustain this for a very long time, but don't ask us to go much faster. So I was like, hey, I'm not even worried about it. If you guys go a little bit faster, that's totally fine. I don't feel like you're ditching me, but you guys were ahead of me by a little bit. I'm like, again, I'm totally fine. I'm not breathing super heavy. This is the pace that we need to keep, or I need to keep.
So the trick was we'd be going real fast, and then we would stop to take breaks and eat blueberries while we waited. So the blueberries were awesome. Just big handfuls of leaves and blueberries and stems, and just ate it all. So got a lot of good fiber, and that was pretty fun.
But then get up, got camp, and brought it back down, and it was great. Such a great relief.
Oh yeah,
get it all taken care of, get it down, and ate some food that night.
Yeah, last 2 miles it just started pouring rain on us, and it was just like, okay, well, last 2 miles we just got to keep moving. It really didn't start raining probably until that last mile, but it was definitely sprinkling. Yeah. So, but got back to camp, soaked, and then set up we waited a little bit to set up our tents, and got the meat all hung and nice and cold, and that was felt good to be back at camp.
Yeah, have a little fire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh gosh, that was so great.
So good.
Yeah.
We didn't cook any of the caribou.
No.
Fire pit smelled funny.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. I would definitely do that again.
Oh yeah.
Like after the Hall Road hunt, I thought maybe. It's beautiful up there. It's pretty cool, but it's so much different when you can get to a spot where you're, like, hunters are around, but you're not necessarily seeing all of them.
Yes.
And we'd heard planes, but it's such a different experience when you can be out there and you are alone and you feel isolated. There's some spots around here in Ketchikan where you feel pretty isolated, but then there's just this constant buzz of float planes that are headed towards, wherever. And so it's kind of the reminder that you're fairly close to town. But when you can get further away, you just definitely have that experience of, I don't want to say loneliness, but just that solitude. You're out there.
Yeah, you're by yourself. It's comfortable.
Pretty sweet. You start
Special.
thinking about Frank Glasser doing that by himself for so long. But, it was really cool.
Yeah.
A lot of fun.
It was bittersweet when we were packing up camp and heading out of there for the last load. And it's always trips like these. And I said it while we were out there. It's like trips like these always go by way too fast for how much planning and stuff like that goes into it. But it's just so special. It's like, it's hard to explain. Good friends and animals, adventure and adversity. Snow and screwing up the stalks. And it's just fun.
There wasn't really a lull outside of the first day when it was snowing. We couldn't do anything. After that, it was very quick paced. We went to the first spot and glassed. Nothing was going on, so we wrapped around the mountain, and then it was like on Caribou. Get up there, wrap back around, go back to camp, Caribou. Get up there, shoot it, And then after that, it's take care of it, process, and so they really didn't have like a 3 or 4 hour glassing session where you're just hanging out and having trail mix and everything was
coffee.
Just the pace was very, very swift. But there were a couple times where you just kind of sit and just kind of drink it in, and I was really enjoying just looking around and saw that moose and just trying to get as much as absorbed as possible while we were doing the hikes and the shuttles and
yeah, when we were planning and we had 7 days out there, I was like, oh, that's plenty of time. I was like, oh, it might even be a little too long.
Right.
And then once we were out there, it went by so fast, and I was like, man, 7 days is just not enough.
Yeah. And I think one of the big keys was, too, that we didn't do anything stupid that made us get soaked on, like, the first day. So being able to set up camp when it wasn't raining was huge, because that way Monday weren't wet.
Yeah.
Fine. Comfortable, warm, good to go. And then we didn't push anything. We didn't go out and try to glass, get soaked, and then kind of ruin that. So by maintaining dry clothes, my feet got soaked. So did my socks because of sweat. And when you're walking around in that snow that's melting, you just walk around in slush.
Oh, yeah.
It's like expecting boots to stay dry when you're walking through a muskeg. That's a sponge. It's wet. Your feet are going to get wet. Gaiters really helped. But yeah, outside of that, it was really nice to be able to, keep that distance between us and misery and just kind of enjoy that. Otherwise, 5 days out there, if you're wet day one, your sleeping bag's wet, all your clothes are wet. That's a whole different experience.
Yeah, you're in trouble if your sleeping bag is wet. But yeah, I felt like that definitely kept the morale up. Getting, like you said, getting wet on the first day, that'd be absolutely miserable. So it's different when you're getting, like, when your feet are wet with sweat when you're packing out meat, because the task at hand is, we went there, got the caribou, and now it's just time to work and just get it out. So it's just a little different when you're actually working. So
any piece of gear, anything that you really were happy you had, or something that functioned well or made you grateful? I'd say that my new gaiters are great, because I had a pair that had this elastic little thing on it, and they were horrible.
Yeah.
But these are like brand new Stone Glacier gaiters that they were great, and that kept the bottom of the pant leg dry, and then kept the top of the shoes dry. Or the boots dry. That was awesome.
I felt like my gear was pretty dialed in. There's probably I did have some malfunctions. My zipper on my attack pants that busted, so there was a breeze going through the front of the pants there. After that, I think I was on like day 2. Dang, zipper wouldn't. I was trying to get that back in order, but it just wouldn't go. So, but I think everything was pretty well dialed. I had probably need a new tent, because that one's showing its age. I'd ripped off part where the little cross member goes across and kind of gives it some structure, but wasn't leaking or anything like that. Like, there wasn't a gaping hole. It was just a part where a part of the stake goes into the tent. But I've had that tent for quite a while, but it didn't fail. It handled the snow. It was 2-man tent, so it was pretty comfortable for one person. Very, very comfortable. I had 2 vestibules in it, so I think gear was great.
Yeah, I think having that big water bladder that you brought was
huge.
Yeah, because coming from here, like, I never think about water, but like that first night we were camping and we were like, oh, where's the water?
Yeah.
And we found some not too far, but
we thought we were gonna have to go all the way down to the creek, which is like a 500-foot drop, and then who knows how far. It wasn't like miles, but that's where we could see where the creek was running. I was like, well, that's water, and then luckily we found it a third of the way down, so that was pretty nice. But yeah, that bladder bag is pretty nice, because you guys had 2 Nalgenes and I only had 1 Nalgene, but just having, it's a 6-liter bladder and it's lightweight. I think it weighs like 4 ounces or 6 ounces or something like that. But especially when we were stuck in the tents, it's like, okay, we got enough water for drinking, food, and just whatever. So
and
nice.
Even down at the bottom too, like if the river is kind of silty and you don't necessarily want to pull water from there, we were able to get water further out and then still have some.
I used tabs a lot too. I think I only pumped once or twice. You just treated the water and then waited. That was part of the pace of the hunt too. Was let's chug the rest of the water at this water source, fill it up, treat it, and then a half hour later we can drink it. But yeah, those tabs were good.
Yeah, I was using those drops for the first time, the Aquamira, and those worked pretty good. There was, I couldn't taste anything, and I'm not sick, so that's a win in my book.
Yeah.
Got to mix the 7 little drops in the cap there. You got to wait 5 minutes, so kind of twiddle your thumbs, but that gave you a chance to kind of relax and take a deep breath and look around, and and then mix it in the water, and then good to go after 15, 30 minutes. So.
Yeah, and then food had plenty of calories. Had some leftover food too. There were a couple times where things, again, going back to that pace. Sometimes didn't have lunch. It was kind of a snack here and there, but got to about dinner time, and it's really, really time to put on the feed bag.
Oh yeah,
pretty hungry. So I was always had a little bit of food, which is nice. But then of course you don't want to make up for that and then get into the next day's food because you think you're going to be good to go because stuff happens. And the last thing you want to do, obviously, is run out of water, but you also don't want to run out of food.
Yeah.
So I think the food packing was pretty good. It was nice to have some extra. Could have cut a little bit, but I don't know. It's nice to be able to have that variety, and we had some good variety.
Yeah.
So it's not the same thing.
Yeah, and we came out a day early, which was good because the day we were scheduled to come out, it was due to get pretty nasty, which it wasn't all that pretty when we got flown out. But so had that worked on the opposite side of the spectrum, had we had to stay a day late, then that extra food would have really come in handy. So it worked out pretty good.
Yeah, sure did.
Sour Patch Kids were nice when we were packing out. Gummy bears were nice when we were packing out.
Sugar.
Yep,
sugar.
Getting that glucose. So yeah.
Yeah, it worked out good. I can't imagine it working out much better. Like you can't anticipate a hunt in that area or in interior Alaska or even Alaska in general. You can't anticipate everything going just could be sunny, perfect, no blown stalks or anything, especially this time of year. Like maybe in August, you can maybe get away with a week-long hunt where everything is perfect. And we've had some nice goat hunts and deer hunts around here. But for that amount of time in that area, there's going to be some level of adversity. So it was nice. It was pretty easy to overcome.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the Celsius on the pack out was really nice. So that's a little energy boost. Yeah, that was pretty good. So definitely helped.
Yeah.
So I think we definitely did a good job at staying hydrated this time, which helps that it wasn't 70 degrees out and no wind. But it was a great trip.
Yeah.
Bummed it's over, but happy we did it. And it was awesome.
Yeah, this has been the thing to look forward to for so long. Now I'm like, well, now what do we do?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, we have these great opportunities for black-tailed deer, and it's super funny to have caribou in the freezer and 2 mountain goat in the freezer, but no black-tailed deer, and that's like the big ticket item for down here in Southeast. But I mean, based on how things have gone, it's been a pretty great August and September so far.
It's been so good. Yeah, now it's time to go put some silvers away and then go goat hunting if the sun ever comes back out. Never see the mountaintops again.
Yeah, I'm getting excited for duck hunting too. I don't know why. I don't know like how much, but I definitely want to get out there. We got the hot tent on the way in a couple of weeks, so it'll be fun to kind of do a nice duck hunt. And
you guys are gonna love it.
Yeah, it's gonna be good.
Yeah.
Hot tents are so awesome.
Yeah. I'm also go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, especially in the wintertime.
Yeah. I'm excited to just get out and camp in that guy. Oh, just have a fire, cast iron pan.
Yeah, shouldn't have bought a house yet. Got the Red Cliff coming.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm also hoping to get out and get some ptarmigan or grouse or something. We saw a ton of those up there, and it kind of got me excited.
So many, yeah. And then they would fly 20 feet in front of you, right where you're going.
Yeah.
And then they would hold still, do their little cackle, and then you'd keep walking, and then you'd scare them off, right, 20 feet in front of you again, and it was pretty funny. Yeah, we didn't shoot one. I couldn't talk Jeff into shooting one. I wasn't going to shoot one, but
no.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were a ton. It was cool.
Yeah.
Pretty birds.
Cool. Yeah, they sure are.
Yeah,
sure are. But we'll call it on that. Great hunt. Any closing thoughts or?
I appreciate you guys coming.
That was fun.
That was a
Glad.
lot of fun.
Yeah.
Good friends.
It's great.
New adventure and a new spot. It was awesome.
Yeah, happy to go. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Abby?
Anytime.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
All right. Thanks again for listening. Make sure you check out onstepalaska.com. Order my books, like the podcast, follow the podcast, and talk to you next time.